For me this week, what caught my eye and what was important is the Avengers Doomsday lineup when they introduced supposedly all of the cast, but we know that wasn't all of the cast. It's not possible. That was everybody. So I have several points I want to make on that. And again, I apologize for starting late, but StreamYard was like, something is wrong. We're having issues. Try again in a minute. I didn't know what to do with that. So I just had to wait until everything cleared up. Okay, so let me start out with my first point that we're going to make as we talk about the Avengers Doomsday presentation that they had yesterday, where they were talking about the rest of the Doomsday cast, or supposedly the rest of the cast, or just some more people that were going to hook in there. Hold on, my hat is making my ears pop out. Making my ears pop out. Okay, so first thing I'm going to talk about is the presentation itself. Okay, now if you were online at all yesterday, there was really no way for you to get away from the presentation because it was everywhere. It blew up all over Twitter. Okay, but there's really no way for you not to see what was happening. But the presentation itself was rather absurd. And the reason it was absurd is because all it was a reveal of chairs with the names of the stars on the back of the chairs, and that's all it was. And the camera would focus in on one chair, and then you see the name of that actor. And then 10 to 15 minutes later, and it wasn't consistent. It was not consistent. 10 to 15 minutes later, the camera would move to maybe another chair. And so it was a painfully slow rollout, and they got, every 15 minutes or so, but they got hundreds of millions, not just millions, hundreds of millions of eyes on it. Okay. So let me pull that tweet up so you can see it. Now, this is not the whole thing. This is just kind of a sampling of what they did, but I want to be sure you see that if you didn't see it yesterday. That right there, you see that? That's me a thing. That's me a thing. Okay, now that what you just saw happened over the course of like 5 hours. It was 5 hours from the time they started that live stream and they moved through all the chairs. So the presentation itself was really kind of unwieldy And who has 5 hours? Now, if you got a job at all, if you work at all, if you got a day schedule. So what I did was I did like I always do. I dip in and out based on taking breaks in my day, based on taking breaks in what I was doing. And that was so long. I was like, did anybody really sit there for the whole 5 hours? I know some people did, but I'm saying that's such a huge chunk of time out of your day. And what it was trying to get you excited and trying to get eyes on the movie by all these names. Now you have to understand that that is the equivalent of stunt casting. That's the equivalent of stunt casting. What does that mean? That means, pay attention, they didn't sell you on the story. They didn't even mention the story. They sold you on, look who's going to be in it. We're bringing back the Fox X-Men. Like they said on Twitter yesterday, Professor X has died 3 times on screen now. We're bringing back Professor X. Ooh, look, we're bringing back Mystique. We're bringing back Nightcrawler, because Alan Cummings said he was never going to come back, but I guess he's back now. Guess that check was right. Okay? So what they gave you was member berries. What they sold you on was nostalgia. Said, remember the X-Men? Remember how you liked them? Remember that movie? Remember? Okay. We don't know nothing about the story. There's been some leaks or whatnot, but we don't know anything about what this is about. And we have theories on what we think it's going to be about. And I'll give you my theory before we leave today. But we don't know nothing about the actual story. Okay. They're not selling you on the story. They're not selling you on the story. They're selling you on nostalgia and member berries, and look at all who we brought back. Okay, so this leads me to my next point, which I want to make, and that is that. So the presentation itself was a little pretentious, 5 hours just for that, 10 or 15 minutes on a certain chair, then it moves on. Nothing actually about the story, just member berries. So the presentation itself was long and a little bit pretentious, but it did what it was supposed to do. And what it was supposed to do was get people talking about it, which it did, get eyes on it, which it did. It got hundreds of millions of eyes on it. That's what it was designed to do, and it worked well. It did exactly what it was designed to do. Now, for some people, that really made them upset, that really threw them off, that really put them in a bad space. I'm going to talk about that in a minute, about that reaction and about my reaction and about my theory. But first, I want to talk about the next portion of what we're going to be talking about today, and that's this right here. Y'all know me. I say stuff out loud that other people ain't going to say. So if you don't know that about me, just hang around my Twitter feed, just hang around my YouTube channel. Okay, I say stuff that other people ain't going to say out loud. Okay? We are in an abusive relationship. We are in an abusive relationship. I just need that to sink in. I just need you to let that hit. We're in an abusive relationship. Okay? Now, why people don't get that by now? We've been in an abusive relationship for at least 10 years, maybe 15. Okay. And so the thing about it is that I'm amazed at the way people don't seem to understand that these people have told us from the beginning. They told us from the beginning that they don't care about the characters and they don't care about the fans. Okay? What they care about is eyes and butts and seats and ticket sales. And I don't know why people are still surprised by that at this point. I'm trying to find this tweet. So I sent a tweet to JesterBell. Teresa Campagna on Twitter, JesterBell on YouTube, and I watch a lot of her videos. I really like her videos. I really like what she has to say. So, doesn't look like I can find it right now. But anyway, she said that she didn't understand why Rocket feels like Disney is diving at first in fan service on Spider-Man. That's right. That's right. I'm going to get to that in a minute, but that's right. So she said that she didn't understand why there were some people that followed her on her timeline that were surprised that she was upset. I sent her a tweet where I said, she said, this is the worst day of my life. And she's like, I hate this. And I said, why? Why do you hate it? Now, I think she thought I meant, why do you hate the presentation? Why do you hate what they're doing? Why do you hate this thing? That is not what I meant by what I said. So JesterBell, if you're watching this, or if you know her personally, I did not mean, why didn't you like it? That is not what I meant. What I meant was, why are you surprised? Why are you surprised at this? I don't understand why you'd be surprised at this, because these people have been telling us for the last 10 to 15 years, they don't care about the characters. They don't care about the fans. They don't care about the story. What they care about is eyes on the project, and what they care about is butts and seats and ticket sales. So at this point, and I'm not talking about 10 years ago, I'm not talking about 2015, or even further back, 2010, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about at this point, why are you surprised? Why are you surprised? What did you think they was going to do? Have these people ever cared about honoring the characters? Have they ever cared about honoring the story world? Have they ever cared about honoring the fans? Maybe in the beginning they did. Maybe in the beginning they did. But I'm just trying to wonder how, with a 10 to 15 year window, how can you be surprised that what they gave us was member berries? And what they gave us was, look at all the people we're bringing back. What they gave us was all that. But here it is, finally. Okay, so let me put this on the screen so you can see what I'm talking about. I had to scroll through a lot to get to that, so hold on. Put this on the screen, and here it comes. So I'm talking to JesterBell, and I say, she says, in case no one understands my tweets, I hate this. I hate all of this. I said, why? I don't understand why. Their goal is to make us talk about it and want to watch it, not do the characters justice. That has never been their goal. So I didn't mean to her, and I don't mean to anyone that didn't like what they saw. I don't mean, why are you upset? And I don't mean, why, don't you like it? Because of course you can like or not like whatever you want. I mean, why are you surprised? Because we are in an abusive relationship. You understand that? If you don't understand that, then I stop by to tell you we're in an abusive relationship. Us in comic fandom, us in geek world, us in nerd world, we've been in an abusive relationship for 10 to 15 years now. And we all know who started it. For those of you that aren't familiar with how all of this got started, it hinges on one person and one speech. If you don't know that, that's how all this got started. But you've heard me say it several times now. Basically, you let people come to the door and tell you that something that had been successful for 50, 60, 70, 80 years, in some cases, that it wasn't right. Superman has never been out of print since 1938 when he first dropped. Neither has Batman. And you let people that don't read comics and don't like the comic characters and don't like the fans come to the door and tell you that you were sexist, that you were racist, that you were misogynistic, that it wasn't fair, that it wasn't right. And so they spit on something that they have never consumed anyway. They told you that the thing you love, that you loved since you were a little child, wasn't right. And they told you that what had been primarily a boy brand, primarily designed to appeal to males from its beginning, it's not that women didn't like it, because they did. It's not that girls didn't read comics. It is not that girls didn't like those movies, because they did. But they told you that it was wrong. They told you it was sexist. They told you it was racist. They told you it was misogyny. and the powers that be bought it. And we all know who started it. We all know exactly how and when it started because the key's off of one person. And so you listen to that. And you heard me say it last time or 2 weeks ago. I forgot when I said it. It's just like vampires in mythology. You can't just bust them in your house. They have to be invited in. So you listen to somebody outside of comics tell you that would have been successful as a successful boy, primarily boy brand for 80 years wasn't right. So you let them in. And not only did you let them in, you gave them the keys. And ever since that happened, that's when things started to go south. Because you listen to a bunch of people that hate the story world, hate the characters, hate the fans, and hate the people that love them. Because they came to the door calling you names. Don't you understand that's the oldest game in the book? That's the oldest okie doke in the book. People making fun of you, people calling you names, people spitting on something that you love. They're not a part of it, and they didn't create anything. They just told you that you were wrong, that you weren't cool. You were a nerd, you were a geek, there was something wrong with you. They listened to that, and they let them same people in and gave them the keys. And ever since then, 2015 for sure, maybe as far back as 2010, things have been going off the rails because we're in an abusive relationship. The people in power and the people that make decisions in comic world and geek world and all the fandoms are people that hate the characters, that hate the story world, and they hate you for loving them. Do you get that by now? If you're dating somebody and something goes down and you see they got a bad temper or you see a bad side to them and that's the first time you saw it, that's one thing because maybe you can honestly say you didn't know they were like that. If you don't stay with that person for 10 years, and every time they get upset, the way they solve their problems is with violence. Every time they get mad, they try to go upside your head. Every time they get mad, they destroy your stuff in your house. Every time they get mad, they key your car. Okay, Prophet 815 is saying the civilians just don't want to hear us. They say we are extreme. That's right. Because remember, these people are tourists, what we call tourists. They don't live here. They don't visit here. They don't create anything. They just come by and look at what we're doing, and they got all these comments. So if the first time you saw that flash of temper in someone, you can honestly say, I didn't know they were like that. But if you've been with them for a decade now, are you surprised? How many times have you seen them lose their temper? How many times have you seen, and I'm talking about all sci-fi and fantasy fandoms now, not just comic books. How many times have you seen them do a bait and switch where they put a character's name on the marquee to get you to watch? And it's a male character, and most of the time it's a white male character, and before the movie's over, before the show is over, they have done nothing but berate that character, but beat him, humiliate him, make him nothing, make him weak, pathetic, helpless, and replace him with a female character and say the female replacement is so much better than him in every way. Or it's not always female to male, but it is always some type of agenda-based character that's based on identity politics. In other words, your character is not who you are as a person, it's your demographics, your age, your gender, your skin color, your sexual orientation. They replace an established character that's been around for decades, more often than not a white male, not every time, but more often than not. And then they tear them down and they put in the female character or the new agenda character. And they talk about how much they're so much better than it. How many times have we seen them do that now? I just want you to go back in the YouTube video history of your mind and ask yourself, how many times have we seen them do that by now? When we first started watching The Flash on CW, The Flash CW, it was about Barry Allen. The first words, hi, my name is Barry Allen. I'm the fastest man alive. Do you remember that? Remember that first season of The Flash? Man, it was so awesome. It was so awesome. By the time The Flash was over, it was the Adventures of Iris and them, and Star Labs, guest star and Barry sometimes. The cast got so full, so many people on it, and all the people had that screen time, and we hit a season where The Flash was on 5 minutes at the beginning and 5 minutes at the end. Do you remember that? Do you remember Arrow, when Arrow first started out, that first season of Arrow? Oh, it was fire. And Oliver Queen had his tagline, "You have failed this city." Do you remember that? That was fire. What happened to Arrow before Arrow was over? Before Arrow was over, it became Felicity and Friends. First it was about Oliver, then it was about Oliver and Laurel, then it was about Oliver and Felicity, then it was about just Felicity. Then it was about how Oliver couldn't exist without Felicity, which is why I don't listen to people when they're screaming about canon, because they completely broke canon. Oliver Queen is not with Felicity Smoke in the comics, and the Felicity Smoke you met on CW Arrow is not the same woman from the comics, in case you didn't know that. So at this point in time, in 2025, March of 2025, how many times have you seen them do that to you? How many times? We're in an abusive relationship because the people that hate the characters and hate the story world and hate us, hate the fans that love them. Yes, it's another good comment. Who wanted the female penguin in Cape Crusader cartoon? That's why I stopped reviewing that, because I couldn't get past the first episode, because I really was going to review all of it. And then I was like, Oswalda, really? What purpose did that serve? Does it make the story better in any way? And also, Batman was incompetent. I'm not watching the female penguin, and I'm not watching an incompetent Batman. They can't think 5 minutes ahead of him. People always say, well, it was year one or year two. Let me tell you something. Bruce Wayne studied around the world, depending on which particular mythology you subscribe to, but Bruce Wayne studied around the world with the best in the world. He studied with magicians. He studied with escape artists. He studied with martial artists. He studied science, all different kinds of science. Bruce Wayne did a lot because he's a genius. So there's some basic stuff Batman would know. But Batman's always 10 to 20 steps ahead of the game. That's his real superpower. Okay? But we're in an abusive relationship. We're having stories be created by people, hate the characters, hate the story world, and hate the fans, and hate those of us that love for 10 to 15 years now. So are you surprised that in Avengers Doomsday rollout, as soon as they showed Robert Downey Jr., so let me show you this picture behind me right quick. As soon as we saw that, we knew what was up, because we knew that was a desperation play. They're so desperate to try to get back to the good old days of Marvel, but they don't understand why those good old days were good. You've heard me talk about that before. They're so desperate to get back to billion-dollar films and all different kind of stuff until they thought that bringing Robert Downey Jr. back, me and my son screamed lazy, bringing him back was going to do it. That's just member berries. Iron Man was successful because of a combination of things. It wasn't just Downey and bringing him back, especially as Dr. Doom. We've been waiting all this time to see an actual Dr. Doom, a real Dr. Doom, because they've messed up Dr. Doom every time we've seen him on screen. Going all the way back to the Corman movie, to the Alba and Evans movies, that wasn't Dr. Doom. He went on the ship with them when they got their powers, and that wasn't Victor. And don't get me started on Fan Four Stick 2015. We haven't seen the real Dr. Doom in live action done properly. We've been waiting all this time for that, and this is who we get? Downey Jr.? So this is what I'm trying to tell you. This is what they think. I said it last week. You cannot duplicate success until you know why it was successful in the first place. Did you know that? I first heard that at a leadership conference. The reason that teams that win, sports teams, the reason that they continue to win is because they understand how to win and why they win. That's why they win season after season after season. But when you see a team that comes out of nowhere and wins, that's a fluke. They won't be able to repeat it next season. If you want to repeat success, you got to understand why it was successful in the first place. And that's why you've heard me talk about Ike Perlmutter so much. I know. Okay, let's see what Dave T. Geek is saying. Doomsday rollout was so boring, I think I would have only been excited about a movie that essentially ignores all the recent films and focused almost entirely on MCU, non-MCU movie characters. I can definitely see that. But the reason that those phase one was successful, I know I talk about Ike Perlmutter a lot. I know he was a racist. I know he was a sexist. I know that. I know that. That's documented. It's clear. I also know that human beings are all or nothing. That's how cancel culture got started. Where people started saying, if you ever made a mistake in your life, and then it moved to not just you making a mistake, if you say anything I don't agree with, then you're supposed to be canceled. Because human beings are all or nothing. Life is not all or nothing, but people are. I know Ike Perlmutter didn't like colored people with color in their skin. I know he didn't particularly like women. He also had a quality control board set up at Marvel. So Kevin Feige couldn't just do what he wanted to do. That's why the earlier phases were so successful, because they had to pass through that board. And then Feige got rid of him. When Feige got rid of him and he gained total creative control, one of his first things Feige said was his goal was to replace all the male characters with women, or he wanted at least 50% women in the MCU. That's the first thing he said. And you could see things start to unravel with the shoehorning in of Captain Marvel, Carol Danvers, because she had no relevance up to the story. When they introduced her, they put her in a slot that should have been Black Widow's movie, especially if Natasha was going to die in Endgame. I want you to think about what would have happened if the Black Widow film had been right before Endgame. It would have given a whole different meaning to her death and a whole different insight to her character. Was Ike racist? He made Blade. He was focused on what sold. Girl characters didn't sell. I agree, but there are some comments. I have to see if I can find them. I have to see if I can find some of the comments that were made. But no, I do agree with that he focused on what could sold and girl characters didn't sell. So sometimes it's the spin machine claiming that you're racist or sexist when it's focusing on what you know works. So I agree that he was focused on what sold, and I'll see if I can find some of the comments to the other stuff. But that's neither here nor there, because like Dave T. Geek is saying, it doesn't necessarily mean that was true. It could have just been he had more business sense and he wasn't trying to be a social anything. Okay, but I know there have been some comments made, but whatever. It was the quality control in the beginning that made those movies so good. And then when that went away, that's when everything started to unravel. And that's when Feige started focusing on Marvel Now, and Marvel Now dropped around 2015. Marvel Now was all new, all different Marvel, where they started replacing the white characters with black characters and replacing the male characters with female characters. You know, Mighty Thor, Jane Foster, and Spider-Gwen, and Miles Morales, and Captain America, Black Falcon, all that came during that time. That's what Feige wanted to focus. So he skipped Golden Age, Silver Age, Bronze Age, Modern Age, Dark Age, whatever, and went straight to Woke Age. Okay? We are in an abusive relationship. I need you to understand that. So you stop being surprised by how these people act. Stop being surprised by what they do. They don't like the characters. They don't like the story world. They don't like you. They think 50, 60, 70, 80 years worth of success is wrong because it doesn't look like what they think. They didn't create anything. They're just destroying something that they think isn't right according to their worldview. You understand? Okay, so that's point number 2 I wanted to make. Point number 3 I wanted to make is this right here. This movie is now officially bloated. It is now officially bloated. Okay? Why do I say something like that? Because these are just too many characters. These are too many characters to try to fit in this film. So that means that either they're going to have very short cameos if we're going to see them all. I'm trying to pull up the tweet with the announced cast on it. They're going to have very short cameos for us to see them all. Or they're going to do something foolish like they did with the Flash movie. Remember at the end of the Flash when he was running backwards and they saw all those worlds between worlds and all that? They're going to do something like that. Because remember in the Flash movie, they showed Christopher Reeve and Helen Slater as Superman and Supergirl because they never appeared live in any movie together. So they CGI'd them in, and they CGI'd in Nicolas Cage's Superman. Remember that? And all that stuff they did at the end of the Flash movie. And, quick glimpses into Elseworlds and other worlds. Okay, Airrock is saying bloated equals weak storyline or one that I won't care about. So it's either going to have to be they just show them in quick glimpses. In quick glimpses. I just want you to look at all those people. Look at all the people. Okay? And these are all the people that were announced. I want you to look at all that. Downey Jr.'s Dr. Doom, which still makes me shake my head. That was wrong from the jump. Hemsworth, Hiddleston, Professor X, Magneto. They got to focus on the Fox X-Men coming back. Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen are both in their mid-80s by now. Captain America, Black Captain America. They got the new Fantastic Four. Bucky, Yelena, John Walker, Ghost, Guardian. So the Thunderbolts, or Sentry, the quasi Thunderbolts, because those aren't the real Thunderbolts from the comics. Then we got a couple people from Wakanda, Black Panther, and Baku. They lost me when they announced Namor, whatever. I can't stand that version of the character. I can't stand what they turned him into. I can't stand it. So when I saw that, I was like, okay, well, whatever. Ant-Man, Paul Rudd's coming back. The Falcon, the new Falcon, that was Sam Wilson's sidekick in the movie. Shang-Chi, Nightcrawler. Now that, I do want to see Alec coming back because Nightcrawler, that translation was incredible in X2. Rebecca Romijn Mystique. Some people are, like they're 50-50 about her. Her Mystique is unique to the X-Men universe, the Fox universe, because that version of Mystique doesn't exist anywhere but there. And she didn't have on her traditional costume, and she had the more lizard-like looking skin. It was different. Okay, so some people are, they're bringing back Beast from that era. Cyclops, I got excited about that. I hope Marsden gets his due this time and they actually present the character in a good light. And Gambit. Now that's from Deadpool and Wolverine. Some people love that. Some people hate it. Some people love that version of Gambit. Some people hated that version of Gambit. But what I'm trying to get you to look at here is look at all them people. Okay? Dave T. Keek is saying, I think it will feel like Rise of Skywalker. It is burdened with closing off the recent stuff, but also making the recent characters interesting from scratch. Interesting perspective. Use Thunderbolts characters to make people curious about watching Thunderbolts. Also, because we've long known that every Marvel movie is a commercial for the next Marvel movie. When has that not been true? From the beginning, from the first post-credit scene that you saw, when we found out that Fury was putting together the Avengers. When has any Marvel movie not been a commercial for another Marvel movie or the next Marvel movie? So we know that. I just want you to take a good look at all them people. I want you to ask yourself, what kind of story are they going to tell with all those characters? So it's going to have to be quick cameos. It's going to have to be like a section of the movie like in Deadpool and Wolverine, if they do anything with them, or it's going to have to be like the end of The Flash, where they just flash through the different worlds and we see them. And I'll talk about what the plot line might be, but where we see them kind of in glimpses, it's going to have to be that. It's going to have to be that. Okay? I really don't see any other way around that. Now, there's something else I want to point out while we're talking about the bloat of the movie. And what I want to talk about is also those that weren't announced, because that's quite significant. And the reason it's so significant is because I don't believe for a second that just because they announced those characters, that that's all. I don't believe that for a second. Not for 1 second do I believe that just because they made us wait 5 hours yesterday just to see those names, that those are the only people uh, into going into the movie. Got to be quickies like the horrible 3-part Crisis on Infinite Earth cameos. Yeah. Remember Crisis on Infinite Earth on the CW? We just got little glimpses of some people because we saw Burt Ward, we saw Helena Wayne, we saw some of everybody. And that was cool, but everybody didn't have a part in the story. We just saw quick cuts of them. Probably going to be like that. But let me bring this up again because I want you to take a good look at who wasn't announced. Look at that. Just look at it. Okay? So look at that. No Spider-Man. I still can't believe that. I made a tweet yesterday about how they spent all their time tying Peter Parker to Tony Stark. And now Peter's not in this with Tony Doom, with Doom Stark. No Hulk, Doctor Strange, and Scarlet Witch, which doesn't make any sense. Not having Doctor Strange and Wanda after Multiverse of Madness. And this clearly is going to be some type of multiverse story. Has to be. Not having them two in it. Okoye, Star-Lord. Now, I know a lot of y'all like Star-Lord. I can't stand it, in case I haven't been clear. So in case you see me tweet about that, if that's news to you, I can't stand Star-Lord. Okay, Dave T. Keek is saying Doctor Strange is the most baffling to T'Challa, and Strange should have been the new leaders of the Avengers, the new Tony and Steve. That's an interesting perspective for sure. I can't stand Chris Pratt's Star-Lord, just so you know. Can't stand it. Okay, War Machine, the Wasp. They got Ghost, but not the Wasp. Captain Marvel, Ms. Marvel. Monica Rambeau, Photon, or just Monica Rambeau. America Chavez, which has only been in one film, to my knowledge. She's only been in Multiverse of Madness. Wong, She-Hulk. They said that Wanda was out, but She-Hulk was in. But that was just a rumor. I'm like, y'all really going to kick Wanda out and bring She-Hulk in? Y'all really think we want to see She-Hulk again? That version of She-Hulk from the comics, was much beloved. Her series was much beloved from the comics. She's a beloved character. She's on the Fantastic Four for a while. She's part of their backup team. She-Hulk was a much beloved character, and it didn't take but one series on Disney Plus to turn her into that. Do you really want to see that again? Moon Knight, the Moon Knight we saw on Disney Plus is not the real Moon Knight. Okay, Daredevil, which is surprising. Hawkeye, which is surprising. Kate Bishop. Vision, where is Vision in any of this stuff? Right? Just no Vision. Vision wasn't in Multiverse of Madness. Wanda want to say to kids, what about your husband? Just where is Vision? Wiccan, Wolverine, and Deadpool, those are the biggest two that surprised me because there's no way they're not going to capitalize on that. Unless Ryan Reynolds' name is mud now because of the stuff he's going through with Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni. I don't know. We have to see how that falls out. Nick Fury and Valkyrie. I didn't appreciate Nick Fury not being in Infinity War or Endgame. That was so disrespectful and stupid to me because he's the one that started the Avengers. He should be a part of the good and the bad. Instead, they put Nick Fury in Secret Invasion, which is one of the worst things I've seen in a long time. Significant things happened there, but nobody talks about them because nobody watched Secret Invasion. It was really, really bad. So these are all the people they didn't officially announce. Officially. You will never convince me that all the people we saw are the only people they're going to have in this film. I like Chris Pratt Star-Lord, but I never liked comic Star-Lord. I've never liked either one of them. I don't like Star-Lord in the comics. I don't like Star-Lord in the movies. Just me. Okay, right. No Vision and Nick Fury was lame in Secret Invasions. Secret Invasion is embarrassing. Really, really embarrassing. If you ever watch it, you see what I mean. It's from start to finish. That whole series is embarrassing. What they do to Fury, what they do to the Skrulls, what they do to Maria Hill, what they do to the mythology is embarrassing. It's awful. If you ever watch it, I reviewed it. It's on my channel if you want to see reviews from it. But it's one of them shows where Anyway, so you need to understand. There's no way this movie is not bloated. Literally no way. I mean, it's just no way that the movie is imploded. Not possible with having all these people in it. Absolutely no way the movie is imploded. Okay. Next up. Okay. Dave T. Geek says, let me put this up. In Endgame, when Thanos was raining fire, I thought the surprise was going to be Nick Fury showing up with a helicarrier. I did too. But it was Brie Larson shaking my head. I did too. Okay, next up, what I want to talk about, what I want to show you is, let's talk about the storyline. Let's talk about your theory. So put it in the chat or put it in the comments below. If you're not watching this live, I want to hear your theories on the storyline. So let me give you my theory. My theory on what's actually happening in this movie is that because the Russo brothers said that the way Tony Stark, what did I say? Tony Stark. The way Tony Stark died in Endgame ties into this. What I think happened was Tony Stark with the snap created a dark version of himself, or he splintered the timeline in some way, or he made this version of Doctor Doom aware of the multiverse. So it's kind of like a Back to the Future scenario where when Marty went back in time and brought back the almanac, and then old Biff stole the almanac and gave it to his younger self, and then completely changed the timeline because Biff made his fortune making all those sports bets. So Marty came back to a world he didn't recognize. I think it's something like that. I think something having to do with Tony having on the Infinity Gauntlet and making the snap and saying that I am Iron Man. I think that his famous catchphrase is going to be significant. I think that him doing that created a dark mirror universe or created a dark version of himself, or they already existed, but it woke up this version of Doctor Doom to the multiverse. It's going to be something like that. That's how we get into it. That snap at the end and the whole time travel somehow either created this guy, somehow created Tony Doom, or somehow woke up and alerted Tony Doom as to what was going on. Then I think that Reed Richards and Tony Doom are going to be trying to build multiverse bridges. Now, we've seen Reed do that in the promo clip, the first trailer for the Fantastic Four. One of the shots, if you freeze frame it, you can see him at a storyboard. You can see him writing out multiverse bridge. You can see him coming up with some plans to bridge the multiverse. And I think that both Tony Doom and Reed are going to try to build multiverse bridges where you can cross over at will. Because that sounds like both of them, doesn't it? Doesn't that sound like something Reed Richards would do? Try to build a bridge so you can explore other worlds at will. Doesn't it sound like something that Doctor Doom would do? Create bridges to other worlds so he can rule there too? I hate that they made Robert Downey Jr. this version of Doom. I hate because we're not going to get the real Doctor Doom maybe ever now. And this is also going to retroactively mess up his portrayal as Iron Man too. But they don't care. Remember, I told you we're in an abusive relationship. They don't care about that. So somehow that's going to get us into this version. They're going to try to build multiverse bridges, and that's how they're going to bring in all these other characters. So we're either going to visit their world or they're going to pull them out of the time stream into whatever world they're in. Now, some have suggested that in the Fantastic Four movie, the Fantastic Four actually lose and Galactus wins. That might be interesting to see if done well. If it's done well, it might be interesting to see. But it's been suggested that in the Fantastic Four First Steps movie, they actually lose their universe. And Galactus actually eats that version of Earth. So that's why Reed has to build a bridge to come to another Earth, and that's how they get to the MCU Earth. because Galactus actually consumes their world. And so Reed has to come here, and then they might form the Illuminati to combat him, maybe. Okay. Okay, Dave T. Keek says it's also lame because Kang, TVA, and the Illuminati already have easy multiverse travel and undercuts the whole multiverse setting mystery. Yeah, and also the multiverse at this point is way overused. If we had used it one time with Spider-Man, No Way Home, that was pretty cool because we wanted to see Maguire and Garfield come back. Those member berries were good member berries. But the way it is now, they don't really understand the point of a multiverse. It's something that you want to visit and get a glimpse of. It's a what if, it's an elseworlds kind of thing if you made different choices, but it's not something because it undercuts. It means that there are no stakes. If you can just replace a character with a variant, it means there aren't any stakes. You can just bring in another version of yourself from another world, another timeline. Okay? And so somehow it's going to be the pulling of the characters from those multiverse realities that give us all these cameos, all these extra characters. And then they're going to have to figure out a way to close the door. This is one of those gimmicks in comics that where once you open the door, you're going to be sorry that you opened it. Okay, so if you want to know what that looks like, that would be, so what about Loki, the god of stories, overseer of the multiverse, the council of kings? I don't know. I'm not sure, to be honest. I'm not sure what they're going to do with that. Hiddleston is in it, so that might factor in. That might become a part. But by movies in, what I think is going to happen is that, okay, so watch the excellent Star Trek TNG episode called Parallels. That's where Worf hits a quantum fissure and reality begins to splinter and all the different lives he lived in other universes begin to collide. And that's also where we got that incredible shot of Riker with the beard in the universe where the Borg are winning and the Borg have taken over. Okay? So multiverse and time travel is always a Pandora's box in sci-fi. You'll always be sorry that you did it by the time it's over. So this is going to cause some kind of catastrophic chain reaction, which supposedly is what happened in Deadpool and Wolverine, and supposedly what happened in Loki. So that's why now it's just confusing. And supposedly what Kang was supposed to be a part of. So that's why I'm saying I don't know how they're going to tie this together. They might just ignore it. But they're going to realize by movies in that this is a box they didn't really want to open. And they're going to be sorry that they opened it. And then they're going to be scrambling for a way to close it. And then somebody else is going to have to make a sacrifice. They may even have Tony Doom, this guy, they may even have him do the same thing that our Tony Stark did in the main MCU and sacrifice himself. He may have a change of heart at the end. It might be a redemption story for somebody because they're good for that. I don't know. But what I do know is that his death is what sparks Tony Doom trying to build the multiverse bridges, which is what both Tony and Reed are going to do. It goes bad. We have all these other characters. And then at the end, somebody's going to have to make a sacrifice to close the door. And that's what they're going to use for a soft reboot. So let me talk about that. That's my last point, is the soft reboot. Now, we have been saying, when I say we, I mean fans, we've been saying on Twitter and Instagram for a long time that the MCU should have ended with Endgame. It really should have. The Thanos saga should be Iron Man, first movie, all the way to Avengers Endgame, and then that's it. Everything after that should have been reclassified as Elseworlds or multiverse or things that happen in other universes. And that way you can redeem. Remember the CW crisis ending, rolling many onto one. That's right, something like that. That way you can redeem all the damage that was done to all those characters that they did in those awful Disney Plus shows from WandaVision on down. They messed up Kingpin, they messed up Hawkeye, they messed up Wanda and Vision. They did so much in them Disney Plus shows. That needs to be classified as multiverse. It happened somewhere else. so we can have the real characters back and do some good stories with them. So the Thanos saga should be its own thing, and I've been saying that for a while. So I have a lot of people, not just me. And so they're going to use this as a soft reboot. And you know what they're going to do? They're going to do the same thing that DC did with Rebirth. They're going to pick and choose what they poured over, which is just going to make it a mess. See, when you do a reboot, it needs to be a hard reboot. It needs to be you end something altogether. And then, so what that would look like in real life is that they end the MCU as we know it, and then they recast every character. From Iron Man to Captain America to all the X-Men, they don't bring back the actors we've already seen in those roles. They recast the MCU from scratch would be the proper way to do that. Because you need to draw a hard line and start over. But what DC did with New 52 and Rebirth was they made Batman 30 years old again, and he had 5 Robins already. Now Bruce is 30, and he's got Grayson, Jason, Tim Drake, Stephanie, okay, and Barbara, and sometimes Carrie Kelly showed up. Carrie Kelly is supposed to be at the end of his career with The Dark Knight Returns. But anyway, point I'm trying to make is that DC Rebirth kept some stuff and changed some stuff, and it just became a big old mess. That's what's going to happen here, I guarantee you. Instead of making it a hard reboot like they need to, they're going to start some stuff new, and they're going to keep some old stuff, which is just going to be confusing to both normies and comic fans alike. So in conclusion, like I said, the presentation itself was bloated. We're in an abusive relationship. I don't know why people haven't accepted that by now. It's been 10 to 15 years. This movie is going to be bloated. Okay, the storyline is probably not going to honor everything we've seen up to this point. It's going to be confusing, and they're going to use it for a soft reboot. So yes, I'm going to watch this, but I'm watching it because for review and discussion purposes, and I am genuinely curious, but I don't have a lot of optimism that it's actually going to be a strong film. I really, really don't. I wish I did. Honestly, wish I did. I wish this film was going to be better than I think it's going to be. And then reveal that Phase 4 was all Elseworld. That's right. That would be better. But so we have to see how this goes down. Okay? So that's all I got for today. Thanks to those of you that joined me live. Thanks to those of you that are watching on replay. Again, FS is the starting point and not Thunderbolts. That's right. See, if they were smart, they would reboot everything and put the Fantastic Four first, like in the comics, and establish them as a first family, and everything flows from there, like in the comics. If they're smart, but they ain't going to do that. I don't think. I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think I am. Let me know what you think in the comments below, because these are my thoughts on all of it, okay? I'll see you on Twitter. I'll see you guys next week. Again, sorry I came on late, but StreamYard was tripping, so I don't know what to do when technology not acting right, okay? So I'll see you. I come on the same time every week, Friday, 10 a.m. Central Standard Time, for my weekly comics chat, where I talk about what jumped out to me in comic world that week. And we had to talk about the Avengers Doomsday casting reveal, such as it was. Okay? That's it for today. Leave me some more comments, and I will see you same time next week. DT2 Comics Chat, out.